do you really want your fate, the fate of the rest of the history of your ability to drive, to rest with one person at the DMV? I think not.
Hey, what do you hear? What do you say? This is Vic DiBattista driving around. I just passed the spot where I got a ticket last month. Thank God for my guy, Michael Palumbo. He got me out of the ticket. I'm like, Mike, can you help me out? He said, Vic, no problem. That's what I do. Send me all the papers. Send me the ticket. You don't have to take a day off from work. He does it all for you. The man is amazing. What the hell did I do now? Looks like I got to call Michael Palumbo.
Hi, YouTube fans, Mike Palumbo, and I just want to tell a quick story. I just saved another guy's license. He was going to be permanently revoked, and I avoided that for him. And this comes from a change in the law in 2012 that makes it very, very difficult for someone to get their license back if they had more than 2 DWIs in a lifetime look back period. If they catch more DWIs, or in this guy's case, what was causing him to be revoked had nothing at all to do with DWI. But he had 5 DWIs in his lifetime. The guy's in his early 50s, and in his 20s to like early 30s, he was pretty wild, like a lot of people were. And he hasn't had a DWI in like 15 or 20 years, this guy. And straight guy, you know, married, kids. I mean, you know, he was wild back in the day. And he caught 5 DWIs. He had 5, you know, drive while ability impaired or whatever, DWI convictions, alcohol impaired related incidents convictions. That's what it's called. And in 2012, the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles created a special category for people with 3 or more DWIs. They consider them unusually dangerous drivers. And there's a lot of little nuances to it, but I'm just going to stick to this guy had 5 DWIs. And in his case, with 5 DWIs, nothing else really mattered. He had 5 DWIs. So if you're an unusually dangerous driver, and then considered an unusually dangerous driver, you get revoked for any reason. So your license gets revoked for any reason. It's permanent revocation. So if you have, for example, you drive without, you have an insurance lapse, and you get convicted of driving without insurance, they revoke you for a year for that. A guy like him is never going to get his license back. It had nothing to do with DWI. He just made a mistake with didn't pay his insurance in time, didn't realize it, right? Anyone else after 1 year revocation period is going to get their license back. There's another category, and when you're considered an unusually dangerous driver, if you get any violation, a speeding ticket or a cell phone ticket, that's individually 5 or more points. So it could be a cell phone ticket or a 6-point speed. You get convicted of that, they revoke your license. Now, if he didn't have 5 DWIs, the revocation would have been for 2 years, and then after that 2-year period, he could have got conditional privileges, and then so 4 years he can get his full privileges back. But because he had 5 DWIs, if he got revoked, it was a lifetime ban. Even though the last DWI he had was close to 20 years ago, and even though he's a tradesman now and has a family, and you know, there's nothing in his history to indicate that he's drinking and driving, and he didn't even have any traffic tickets since like he was in his 30s. It didn't matter, okay? What he did was he pled guilty to a cell phone ticket in a local court, which is 5 points, not knowing and understanding the rules and regulations. And what happened was they actually sent him a notice of a specialized hearing. Now you can win. Now, under those circumstances, because it's such a draconian rule, you are entitled to a specialized in-person hearing at the Department of Motor Vehicles. The issue is whether or not you have unusual, compelling, and extenuating circumstances so that the revocation rule won't apply. So if you win that hearing, you're good to go. You're not going to lose your license. And that's one way of doing it. But I don't like that way, okay? Because, you know, as good a case as I could put together, and I think, you know, if I went to that hearing, he would have won. I would have put together a good enough case. You're still just leaving up to the whims of one administrative law judge that doesn't know you and doesn't really have any motivation to help you. I'm not saying they're bad people, but do you really want your fate, the fate of the rest of the history of your ability to drive, to rest with one person at the DMV? I think not. So that would have been an alternative way of doing it if I wasn't successful in what I did. I instead unrung the bell for him. That's the better way of doing it. I demanded the hearing. That stayed his revocation, so that gave me time. Then I went back to the court where he pled guilty pro se by himself. And I said, Judge, he didn't realize all this. He didn't realize that they changed the regulations. You know, he didn't even think that a cell phone ticket's going to jam him up. He represented himself. He had ineffective assistance of counsel because he represented himself, and he didn't know the law. So if another lawyer did that, just pled him guilty, you know, you had ineffective assistance of counsel. We're charged with understanding the full ramifications of the law. But he represented himself, so I made the same argument. And this is what's going to happen to him. And I always put together a very comprehensive package. I sent him to a substance abuse counselor that gave a consultation report that he's not at risk of relapse. I sent him to I had a drug test done on him, show that he's not using any drugs. I had affidavits from his employer showing that he's a working man. I think I put some more information about his personal circumstances. He's supporting a family, so it's not really relevant to the legal argument, but I assert facts which are going to persuade the court to saying, listen, I asked the court to vacate the conviction. Now, vacate the conviction, the triggering event, which would trigger all of him losing his license, is no longer there. The DMV can no longer revoke him. They don't even have a right to a hearing. He doesn't need a hearing. And I made sure I pointed out, if I or any competent lawyer was representing him, we would have knocked this thing down to a parking ticket. So went before the court. The judge agreed. We vacated it. We repled him to a parking ticket. And I contacted the hearing officer, and the hearing officer said, yep, there shall be no hearing. And that's it. And now the guy knows the law. He got his, so he, I basically unrung the bell. That's what I did. Instead of doing the hearing and pleading my case as to why he has unusual and compelling extenuating circumstances before the DMV, I unrung the bell in court that triggered the potential lifetime revocation, and the DMV's hands were tied. There was nothing they could do. So look, you may be in a situation where you may be losing your license. It might be getting suspended. It's going to get suspended. It is suspended. You don't know what to do to get it back, or it is suspended or revoked. Give me a call. I can always, listen, I'm a master at getting people back on the road, cleaning up their records, and explaining to them, more importantly, explaining to them what the rules and regulations are and what they have to be careful for. This guy knows. Anytime he gets a ticket, he better call me or a different lawyer to handle it. So again, it's Mike Palumbo. Thanks for watching, and we bring you more great content as time goes on.